Every year we're fed the same promises of this Call of Duty improving on the last one, we fixed all the issues you complained about last year, and almost every time we're met with the reality that that simply is not true. So are we about to be scammed out of our money for another year, or is this finally the title that takes us back to the glory days of Call of Duty? At the time of recording this, the beta has just finished, and Battlefield 6 is very much on the horizon. So the real question we have here is, can Call of Duty survive what looks to be a very promising Battlefield title? And what is probably the worst sentiment for a Call of Duty game in recent memory? But to be fair to Treyarch, I do think they are taking notice of that sentiment, as we have seen some changes, even in the period of the beta, that show signs of them at least trying to take on some of the criticism that people have offered, but there has obviously been signs that they have ignored us in other areas. So first of all, we'll go through some of the bad points, and unfortunately, a lot of these are shared with the launch of Black Ops 6. With some of the most egregious ones like screen shake feeling like you're in a Category 8 earthquake, TTK being too fast, some cumbersome menus, and in the first few days of the beta, the SBMM was crazy. But for the last one, I will have to put a little asterisk above it because there have been some changes. For me, the screen shake is unacceptable. We had it at the launch of Black Ops 6 and they did go ahead and change it for that. But here we are 12 months later with the same problem, and for me that just isn't good enough. Every year we go through the same cycle of them fixing problems they introduced at the start of the last game, only to then repeat them with the next release. So saying that, I do expect this to be fixed, but we really shouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. And as for the menus, well, what can I say? Every year they find a way to make it overcomplicated, and this year is no different. I can't speak for the full release because I assume this will be fixed, but I have never played a Call of Duty with a menu this laggy. It's comically bad. And honestly, I could get over that given that it is a beta, but the start menu when you're selecting a loadout is just the most unnecessarily complicated thing. Just show me the loadouts I have instead of numbering them. What's the point in letting me rename my classes if I have to manually go into the class to see what I've named it? Just show me the list that we've had since COD 4. Now, if you're a casual player, this may not seem like a big deal, but if you play a lot of Call of Duty, this will drive you crazy. And speaking of driving you crazy, the spawns. Because at least in the beta, the only game mode that has somewhat predictable spawns is Domination. Hardpoint has you spawning all over the map. Now, I like to think I look at the minimap more than the average player, but this is crazy. It feels like I'm spending more time looking at the minimap than the people I'm fighting. And when there's multiple occasions where either you or the enemy are spawning amongst each other, it's going to make the game very difficult to play at a competitive level. Having said that, I do think they will fix the spawns, because if it stays as it is, the competitive scene is just going to explode, and not in the good way. And on top of that, the TTK is too fast, but I also have faith that will either be altered or we'll all just adjust. So this doesn't bother me too much, but it is a negative, so I will include it. But honestly, that is pretty much all of the negatives that come to mind. Especially as the beta became open to all, they did make some improvements that were very promising. And I think the obvious one being the SBMM changes, with an option of what they are calling open playlists, which I personally have had a lot of fun in. It's a lot more casual, and you don't get put up against CDL players after doing well, allowing for a lot more casual experience. However, I did notice a few people getting quite upset at the level of players they were playing against, inadvertently exposing themselves as not very good. That and the usual hacking accusations, which was quite funny to see. On top of these SBMM changes, I must say that the map design so far, from what we've played, has been very promising, with each map having its own aesthetic and looking very good, but most importantly, playing very well too. The flow is good and the engagements are constant. So if they're able to translate this into the other maps, I think we may be in for a good year, at least as far as map design goes, because it really feels like they've thought about the new movement system thoroughly while designing the new maps. And I think we'll see a lot of people really exploiting that movement to create a larger skill gap, because the movement really is a breath of fresh air. And I personally was quite apprehensive when I first heard about the wall jumping, but I do think this is a nice middle ground between the jetpacks and the boots on the ground style Call of Duty. And I do look forward to seeing what some of the higher level players do with this mechanic. As for the weapons and gunplay, that's also quite promising, with every gun feeling like it has its place in the selection. Now, of course, there are some that are better than others, like the Dravek especially, but overall, I think every weapon, at least in the beta and at least what I used, were very enjoyable. But we'll get a much better idea of the variety when the game is released. But so far, so good. And I'm definitely coming away from this beta with more positive thoughts than negative. And frankly, I'm even surprised myself with this. As seeing the trailers before the beta and even COD Next, I just wasn't that enthused. But to feel basically nothing when the trailers and stuff were releasing was quite disconcerting, as somebody that has played Call of Duty every year since COD 4. So I'm really glad my mind was able to be swayed during the beta, and I'm now a lot more hopeful for the next 12 months with some stiff competition on the horizon, as this does feel like it could be a return to form for the franchise. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more of Black Ops 7 or even Battlefield 6, I make weapon loadout videos very regularly, so if that's something you're interested in, I've got you covered.